where we are here. This is from the Oregonian newspaper, and the reasons given by somebody described as juror number 4. And this student at a local business college, it's a liberal arts college, we'll just briefly go over it. But nonetheless, this number 4 vigorously, and again, this is by Maxine Bernstein, defends the across-the-board acquittal of the Bundys and 6 co-defendants, calling the ruling a statement about the prosecution's failure to prove the fundamental elements of a conspiracy charge. The full-time Maryhurst University Business Administration student was a juror who sent a note. Now, this is where it's very important. This is the fellow that sent a note to the judge that caused one of the fellow juror, number 11, to be bounced from the jury. So this guy was a jury activist in the jury box. Lawyers, both prosecution and defense, always worry about this. This young man seemed to have been very knowledgeable and probably had a great effect on the jury. Now, I don't know if he was the chair of the jury or not. It should be known that all 12 jurors felt that the verdict, and this is an email he sent out, statement regarding the various failures of prosecution to prove conspiracy in the court itself, and not any form of affirmation of the defense's various beliefs, actions, or aspirations. Juror number 4 wrote in a lengthy email, we don't have it, to the Oregonian. He expressed a belief that he could now speak out freely, but he wasn't ready to identify himself to the masses. Period. The judge withheld jurors' names during the selection process. Don't worry about that. We know from the O.J. Simpson jury that sooner or later they will start to pop out. The jury followed closely the Judge Ann Brown's instructions on how to apply the law to the evidence and testimony heard during a 5-week trial. Interesting that a 5-week trial, they restarted the jury and they deliberated for 4 hours, and that's the verdict they got. Unanimous verdict of not guilty to conspiracy charge against all 7 defendants. Each was accused of conspiring to prevent U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and Bureau of Land Management from carrying out their official work through intimidation, threat, and force during a 41-day occupation. Now, if you are occupying their place of employment by virtue of occupying it, you interfere with their work. That is just common logic. And because you had guns on hand, etc., and because of the signal of the noise, I should say, you definitely have threats going on. Number 4 noted the panel couldn't simply rely on the defendants' defining actions to convict. All 12 agreed that impeding existed, even if an effect of the occupation, even if as an effect, he said, but we were not asked to judge the bullets and hurt feelings, rather to decide if any agreement was made with an illegal objective. On our special broadcast we did here on iHeart, we talked about that. Wrote it seemed this base's high standard of proof was lost upon the prosecution throughout. That was the judge's instructions, and we thought it was very suspect at best. The prosecution argued that the case at its core was about illegally taking another's property. The heavily armed guards that manned the front gate. Now, this is in watchtowers during the 41-day takeover. In and of itself was intimidating and prevented officials. And no doubt they were correct about this. If you have guards at the gate, you're not there, as they say, to eat chips and fish. They argued that the alleged conspiracy began on the 5th of November when Armand Bundy and Randy Payne met with the Harney County Sheriff Ward and promised they would be extreme urban unrest. Now that is in the community if they didn't step back and block the Harney County ranchers, Harmon, and of course Harmon, and in jail the Harmons were starting to return to to return to federal prison on the 4th of January. In fact, they did, serving out a minimum 5-year sentence for arson on federal land. They are in jail. The defense, of course, argued that they urged the jurors in closing remarks not to mix up the effects of the occupation, which undoubtedly kept federal workers from doing their jobs, from the intent of the occupiers. Well, the intent of the occupiers is a subjective manner. Jury number 11, this is the one that got bumped, worked for the Bureau of Land Management as a rancher tech and firefighter more than 20 years ago. He said during a jury selection and asked by the judge during a votitis where that if the experience would impede his ability to be fair and impartial, and his answer was not really. An interesting answer there. It was until the 4th day into deliberation that four sent a note to the judge asking if a juror who had previously worked for the agency outright told the panel he was very biased, could be an impartial judge. Well, he's not a judge, he's supposed to be a juror, and he was bounced for cause. But that set it all off, I should say. The Maryhurst business student has said he is baffled by what he described as observers' flippant statements in wake of the jurors' acquittals. Well, they're not flippant statements there. There was evidently a lot of flummery in the jury box. And the jury, he said, met with the judge after the verdict was announced and after the U.S. Marshals physically confronted and arrested the lawyer Marcus Munford. That was the Bundy boys' lawyer there. He said many of the jurors questioned the judge about why the federal government chose the conspiracy charge. Well, she couldn't tell him that. She was not the prosecutor. He said he learned that a potential alternative charge, such as criminal trespass, would not have brought as a significant penalty. Well, in the federal scheme of things, 6 years is not a severe penalty if that was a maximum, because they would get time served. They'd been in jail in Portland for almost a year, and certain types of good behavior, certain types of overcorrective operations, they would have served 2 to 3 years at best. And perhaps not even that, perhaps about 2 years or a little over 1 year, because they already had a year in custody there. So thus, this is where it is left. We all question about the attorney that could stick, and were amazed that the conspiracy charge seemed the best possible option. Well, that is one of the things that can happen in a trial. Many things work in very mysterious ways. There was a lot of after talk going in the OJ, but that was more of a national case. This case, while it was out there, is not something that permeated the headlines out across the U.S., but it did make a worldwide media. You could find it in The Guardian and various other places. Also here, we'll get to the nearest, latest Standing Rock protest. This is out of North Dakota. This is in Cannonball, North Dakota. Protesters ousted from what they call private land, where they tried to block construction of the pipeline. Faced off with state police there in North Dakota. 24 protesters stood in defiance with their arms in the air. One roadblock and etc. here on Highway 1806. The Morton County Sheriff there said 141 people had been arrested there in North Dakota. As we wind down here on Friday Job, we'll have more information on North Dakota. And let's just take a quick look at the polling. Today we looked at the New York Times and their latest article on Anthony Weiner. How will this ultimately affect the outcome of the election? Very, very difficult to say on that particular issue. The Supreme Court, incidentally, has taken up one of the quote-unquote bathroom cases for a transgender student in Virginia that would like to use the bathrooms. That's what it's gotten down to. And will continue to be blindsided. Let me take a quick look at Politico here. Basically the same thing. New evidence. Well, it's not new evidence. A little bit confusing here. They found this on a desktop unit belonging to Weiner and his wife. And they are looking at this, but I do have some doubts as to how this came out, period, in a very, very close election. Let me just look at the polling today, and this is today's polling. Incidentally, the economy grew, and Trump has been I think, what was it, 2.3 or something like that. I'd have to look at it here. We'll have that on Numbers Man, which comes on many of these stations. The economic analysis people sent out their latest today. I believe it's 2.2, 2.3, is about what you get in the type of environment that we have out here. 2.9. Make sure we get this right. This is national income, third quarter advance, 2.9, and an annual rate of 2.9. This is from the Bureau of Economic Analysis. This is the advanced estimate there. The second quarter real GDP increased, and this is GDP at 2.9. It was 1.4. And you go through various estimates here. We won't get into that. We will get into it on a Numbers Man, but that is good for this economy, almost 3%. Now, this is the latest polling on Friday. The LA tracking poll has Trump up by 2. That is a panel. We've talked about previously how that weighting affects that particular outcome. ABC has another tracking poll. They don't pay as much attention to tracking polls over a long instance, you'll see. Nonetheless, ABC has Hillary Clinton up by 4. Johnson has 4. Stein has 1. And in a two-way race by 5. Rasmussen has it tied up. IBD, a very interesting poll, has Clinton up by 3 in the four-way race. Johnson 7, Stein 2. And in a two-way race by 3. Emerson out of Pennsylvania has Clinton up by 5. Gravis out of Nevada has it tied up. Emerson out of New Hampshire has her ahead by 3. We'll be watching to see on Tuesday or Wednesday of next week how these polls are. The Christopher Newport University out of Virginia by 7. The St. Louis Post-Dispatch, hadn't seen him out in Missouri. Trump is up by 5 there, 47-42. Johnson has 3. Stein has 1. Emerson out of Michigan. Clinton up by 7. She's been up consistently in the state of